I consider Terminator 2 to be one of the greatest action movies ever made, and part of that comes down to how this movie, as a sequel, is framed in the context of what came before it. Now, what do I mean by that? So the first Terminator does not have a lot of action in it, with it being more of a sci-fi slasher movie than an action film. But one of the more notable scenes of action is this big car chase between our heroes and the Terminator, where the T-800 pursues them in a motorcycle and in a truck. And do you know what else has a car chase with the Terminator pursuing someone either on a motorcycle or in a truck? That's right, Terminator 2's first major set piece. In this big first piece of action, Terminator 2 is communicating to the audience that it is taking all of the foundation that was built up in the first film and is using that as a springboard to take this film to bigger and better heights, and it succeeds in basically every measure. Now, why would I be bringing up one of the greatest sequels of all time? A sequel that took its predecessor and used its best parts to exceed it in every possible way during this discussion of Ori 2. So yes, to state the obvious, I loved Ori 2, and I want to go a little deeper as to why that is. I wasn't immediately sold on Ori 2. It felt like the base they were laying down at the very beginning, I'm talking like the first half hour, felt way more similar to something like Hollow Knight instead of the first Ori, but all that changed when I got the first new movement tool. As I mentioned when talking about the Blind Forest, my brain is essentially just looking for constant neuron activation when I'm playing, and boy oh boy, the devs put in so many neuron activating moves in this game, it's crazy. You've got a double jump that can pretty quickly be upgraded into a triple jump, a dash move, a momentum transfer move, a grapple hook move, and just so much more. And the best part is that all these moves are earned by the player within the opening hours, so you can just enjoy them fully for the majority of the game. Another small note while we're talking about neuron activation is that all these moves have just such smooth animations to them that you feel like you're flying every time you dash or grapple. It's such a consistently great part of the experience, and in a game so focused on movement, that consistently great part is happening basically all the time. So one thing I wasn't a huge fan of in the first Ori were the environments. They just didn't stand out to me that much, save for the actual dungeons. This isn't a criticism of art direction though. The neon-earthy mix creates such a good atmosphere, like Pandora in Avatar, but a lot of the areas of the map felt similar in my opinion because they all mechanically operated the same. That cannot be said of Will of the Wisps, where each environment sports an entirely different vibe, both aesthetically and mechanically. This is because the zones themselves have been turned into sort of a zone-dungeon hybrid, save for some actual separate dungeons. The structure of the game, and this is me getting sidetracked, also reminded me of the second half of Dark Souls 1 with collecting all the Lord Souls, where all these extended areas of the map are now open, thanks in Ori's case, to your more full suite of abilities. Structurally, environmentally, aesthetically, and mechanically, Ori 2 is just firing on all cylinders and doing grapple hook, triple jump, dash moves around the first game. One area of the game that created some of the highest highs and lowest lows for me were the boss encounters. On the high side of the bosses is all of these amazing looks of the bosses and all of the boss fights. Now, were the boss fights perfect? No. There were some decisions that left me a bit frustrated during certain encounters, but overall, anytime I was fighting a boss, I was having a great time. And when I got to use my brand new dungeon-specific mechanic during the boss fight, as the kids would say, it was peak. But that height is not the standard, and when I'm met with the standard of run away from the boss and get away right at the last second and that's the encounter, I'm left a little disappointed when what I really wanted to do was have a cool fight on top of that running away. It's not the end of the world. Even the standard is still fun and thrilling. It just could have been more fun and more thrilling, if you get what I mean. I loved Ori 2. In fact, as it stands right now, it's my favorite game I've played this year. I think you would love it if you played it, and I thank you for watching this video.